Welcome to Over the Edge podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rankin. Okay, so on today's episode, we're going to be talking about spirituality and politics. I know, fun stuff, right? So I'm going to open up with a question. If you consider yourself to be spiritual, yet you refuse to engage in political discussions, are you truly helping humanity to evolve? Okay, because isn't the whole spiritual community supposed to be about creating a better reality for everyone, even if it's messy and dark at times? And that should include uncovering the evil in the world as it is, especially the governments that are ruling for the people. Okay, so that opening statement is going to be the basis of what we talk about today. So maybe I should give a little bit of background and say, I used to not be so much into politics, but the things that are going on into the world, it's kind of forced me to really jump into doing my due diligence and doing research on topics, not just from mainstream media, but from other different sources. Today's discussion is in regards to my opinion. I'm not going to be presenting sites works cited or anything like that. But what I am going to be doing is to kind of giving my perspective on the whole spirituality and politics thing. Now, I understand that this could reduce my number of followers. So be it. I'm okay with that. This entire podcast is about me being authentic to myself, sharing my opinion, and just really kind of getting other different perspectives out there, stepping beyond what we've been indoctrinated with. So let me start, with the whole spiritual, journey. For myself, I've never fit in. I've kind of been the black sheep of the family, and I'm okay with that. It's, people tend to think that I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. And by the way, we're going to do an entire episode on conspiracy theory and how that term was indoctrinated by the CIA to basically kind of lay a foundation line of, causing division for, anyone who did not agree with their rules or what they said happened, So, but that's a totally different topic. But, basically, I tend to think outside of the box, be a little bit of a free thinker, question things. I always question things. I question things like there's no tomorrow. Why? Because, I think that we all should. I think that we all should be doing our own due diligence with everything. Even what I say here in this podcast, you should still do your own due diligence. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Come to your own realization. Find your own perspectives about things. So, but I wanted to talk about, spirituality and how I'm seeing through social media platforms that a lot of spiritual people are refusing to engage in political discussions. And I find that very disturbing. I find it very disturbing. Why? Because it is of my opinion that, the spiritual community should be the forefront, the leaders in engaging in political discussions because they want humanity to evolve. That is should be the whole movement, is about the evolution, moving from one stage into the next and leveling up humanity. It's moving away from the things that keep us oppressed, the things that keep us, held under thumb, so to speak. And, and a lot of that is uncovering the lies and uncovering the untruths in the world. And politics plays a huge part with that. I'm not going to lie. I just, for the longest time, I stepped back and I was just like, I don't even want to deal with politics, the corruption and, the deceit and everything that lies within that. It was very off-putting. And, it just left it left me, wanting just to basically be a hermit and shut myself away from the world. And then I came to the realization, I cannot do that. If I am on this forward movement for humanity and starting with my self-care, self-discovery, once I get to that place, I've got to really step up and work with the community and, not separate myself and to really hold myself accountable, for my part in the world. And ignoring things it is playing a part, but it's not playing an active part that will actually propel us into a greater future. So, again, this is my perspective on it. I truly believe that, we have to engage in political discussions, because that's the reason why politics and the government are set up, is to help, help enforce governing bodies, these regulations, these things that the people are actually voting on and putting into place. And it's there to help enforce the people's voice. Not the government's agenda, but the people's voice. Okay. So growing up, I have a lot of military in my family and circle of friends. I'm a very avid supporter of the military, of our soldiers, of our veterans, and all of the freedoms and things that they have done and fought for us. Okay, so I don't take this discussion lightly, even though it may come across that way just a little bit. But it's the fact that when I look at the world and everything that's going on right now, it's very disheartening. I'm a child of the 70s, 80s, right? So I grew up in the era where things were much different. And I know people will go, well, that was 40 years ago. How much has changed? A lot has changed in 40 years. There's this energy of when I grew up, things were, I don't know if we were just naive of what was going on, because I know that things were going on, but, we just had a different, I'm just going to call it for what it is. We had a different respect for things. Our grandparents who were actually, I had a grandfather who was in World War II, I had friends who served in the Korean Wars and in Vietnam, so there's just this energy of, information and seeing what the people who actually support us in ensuring our freedoms, our military, our family members, our servicemen, looking at them and seeing everything that they went through, right? And I actually said this to a friend the other day. I said, I think that, the public is a little soft right now. And it's soft in the fact that we, including myself, had not had to experience wartime. Right now, I know that there may be some veterans and soldiers out there who were in the Iraqi wars, and they went through Desert Storm, and I applaud you and thank you for your service. But for me and the general public, I wasn't part of that, and even though I witnessed it from afar, it didn't affect my day-to-day life. So where am I going with this? What I'm trying to say is that, we've grown up in a society that has had a lot of luxury. And therefore, I think that there's a sense of entitlement. And when I talk about the spiritual community, I talk about the fact that, yes, I think overall, we all want there to be peace. We all want, people to love one another. We don't want, to see all the bad in the world or the things that happen, but the things that that are what I consider evil are happening in the world. Sex trafficking, human trafficking. There's a corruption on a grand scale. There's so much that people are willing to turn a blind eye to, and they call themselves spiritual, and I question that, because I'm at the point in my life to where if we continue doing the things what we're doing and turning a blind eye, our freedoms are going to be stripped away from us. And it's basically like we're just handing them the keys to do that. Our forefathers fought really, really hard for our freedoms. Many lives were sacrificed for our freedoms. And I don't think that we should take that lightly. So, I think wishing people, love and light, that's great. We should definitely be doing that. And at the same time, we should be speaking our part. We should be, voicing what we see in the world. If you see something that is an untruth, something that's a lie, and you have information to back that up, please present it to the public. Don't hide behind it, and don't call someone a conspiracy theorist because it differs from the indoctrination from what you were brought up to. Do your due diligence. I think that uncovering things right now, we live in an age of technology where uncovering things, information is at our fingertips, right? And yes, we do have to use some sort of discernment into what we present to others, but still my grandma always said this, there's a little bit of truth behind everything. Okay. If it's a joke, or if someone, if someone's joking about something, there's always a little bit of truth there. It's just how much truth and how far down the rabbit hole you're willing to go to discover that truth. And so, I think that by us engaging and becoming more active, I think right now the world needs more activists than they need pacifists, right? We don't need people who are going to be passive. And there are those who don't have the capacity to voice things, or, those are the ones that we should be standing up for and standing beside, and and speaking out on their behalf, right? And I think that by doing our due diligence and exposing these things, that it's going to create more. It's going to awaken. When people talk about, and I hate the fact that people use the word woke and awakened in the same sentence. Okay, it's woke culture. It's like there's this whole spin on, for those of you who have been in the spiritual community, and I'm probably triggering the hell out of you right now. But it's that whole awakening, your spiritual awakening that you talk about. It's the spiritual awakening of finding self, finding truth. And that's coming into the authentic being, and, allowing yourself to go through the so-called dark soul of the night, dark night of the soul. I just kind of butchered that. Whatever, you get the gist. But it's the energy of, you're seeing things that you were blind to before in order to gain enlightenment. You are awakening. Well, the government has taken the spin on woke culture, and it's almost like a joke. It's turning something into, for the spiritual community, and, spinning it on a dime and turning it back and shoving it in their faces. Oh, woke culture. So then no one uses the term woke, or they see people who talk about awakening, spiritual awakening, as being foolish or unindoctrinated, or, that they're of a different mindset, right? Turning woke culture into sheep. You guys, can we just drop all the labels? Can we just drop all the labels and just say, you know what? There's those of us who see truth and want truth exposed, even though it's dirty, dark, messy, very corrupt, and it needs to be seen, because the people who are doing it have been doing it for hundreds, maybe thousands of years, right? And then there's those who are okay with status quo. Things just keep operating the way that they are, and our freedoms and our rights are being chiseled and chipped away. And, and they're okay with it. Like, so let's kind of, I hate to talk about division, but that's a little bit of division there. There has to come a sense when, there's, what side of history are we going to be on? Are we going to be on the passive side that allowed everything to happen to us and things to be taken away from us? Or are we going to stand up for ourselves and say, this isn't right? And yes, I'm part of the spiritual community. And yes, I'm part of the political community at the same time. We can't divide spirituality and politics. It has to coincide together. It's got to, things have to come together for us to evolve and move forward, right? You think about evolution, a couple of things happen during evolution. The stronger survive, right? The weak die off. And, and I think that has to do with the way that we think about things going forward. I'm not a religious person, however, I do believe in a higher power. Call that God, call that, universe, whatever you want to call it. The thing is like, I believe that there's something greater than us. And at the same time, it's not my government. My government doesn't hold power over me. Your government doesn't hold power over you unless you give them that power. This is a big reality check this morning. This is the energy of, what's right for our future. I have children, one day they'll have grandchildren, hopefully. And it's that energy of, I want to create better for them and better for their children and their great grandchildren. It's like, we have to stop thinking about, ascending just for ourselves, so to speak, right? We have to start leveling up as a whole. And that begins with us questioning and engaging in everything that's going on in the real world right now. I know I'm probably going to get some flack about this, from the spiritual community. You know what? Quite honestly, I don't give a shit, because it's time for us to wake the fuck up. It's time to start doing what's right for humanity. That means being authentic with yourself. That means voicing when you see something that is a lie, that is corruption, you voice it. You shine light on it. That should be the whole meaning of spirituality. You want to go to the Bible? Well, let's talk about how Jesus, when he walked into the temples and he saw the government's taking advantage of people, he overturned their tables. He called them snakes. So let's call a spade, right? Don't hide behind some, indoctrination or belief structure that's going to rip you from your God-given freedoms, your God-given rights, your birthright. Your birthright is to be free, not enslaved into a system that, taxes you to death, not to be enslaved into a system that, that wants to take away your guns and not allow you to protect yourself and your family. This is a time, and definitely not to be enslaved into, the human trafficking circle. You guys, that's huge. I could probably sit here and I'm going to bring in some of my other friends from the community, and we're going to talk about that, because I'm going to start doing, it's move beyond just me talking and start bringing in other people, to start having these conversations about what is going on in the world and where everyone stands on that. And, what can we do as a whole to move forward? Part of breaking out of the quote, the matrix, is allowing yourself to see things that have been hidden from you. mainstream media will show you what mainstream media's agenda is. You really have to start digging to find your truth and start digging to see what actually occurred. We can all look back through history and see where there have been so many cover-ups and, so many half-truths given. And, and if anything, that has caused more division than unity. So, I implore you to start doing your due diligence. And, and if you're part of the spiritual community, and I know it seems like I'm picking on the spiritual community, but it's just because of a lot of the threads and things that I'm seeing in social media, where if someone has a political viewpoint, they automatically get bashed or, they get cyberbullied because they voice their opinion. Look, you voted for whoever the fuck you voted for, okay? That is your right. That is your right. Just because someone voted opposite of me does not mean that I'm going to sit there and bash them. Look, they were entitled that right. That was something that was fought for so that they could have that right, okay? What I'm asking is that regardless of who you voted for, look at things at how they actually are. Look at things at how they've been playing out and what it's been leading up to. You guys start looking at patterns. Start questioning things. Start allowing yourself to question these things. And, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you, if you're faint of heart and, you want to keep your head in the sand, then don't question anything. All right. But if you really want to do yourself a justice and do humanity going forward a justice, start doing your due diligence. Still be kind to everyone, still show love and support to others. You can still be love and light, and you can still have that truth at your side. Okay. And I'm going to get into another podcast about duality, light and dark, and how you need to embrace both in another time. But, today it was kind of, I wanted to spin off on the whole considering yourself to be spiritual, yet refusing to engage in political discussions. And how, do you really see that as truly helping humanity evolve? Let's talk about this, you guys. Leave me comments. Let's open up the discussion thread. Let's actually start engaging with one another and start creating a better reality. Start creating a better reality. Let's, it's going to get messy. It could get dark. It could get, it could be laced with hilarity. I have no idea how this podcast is gonna go. It's totally unscripted. It's unfiltered. I hit the record button. I don't go back and filter things out. It is what it is. And, we're going to just start talking about being authentic to who we truly are and uncovering and stepping over the edge of all of those beliefs and all those things that we've been indoctrinated to believe, sorting out what are lies, what's the truth, and where do we go from here? Okay, so I'm going to end this podcast on that note, and I'm going to send you all blessings. Thank you so very much for listening today. And if you found this enlightening or you would like to share this, please share my podcast. Let's get out there in front of the community and let's start growing. Okay, so until next time, bye now.